Hello children, thank you for joining me. The next person you're going to see is Mrs Moran. Mrs Moran is going to demonstrate some sewing skills that you might like to use to sew your square for our community quilt. She's going to show you some different types of stitches which you might be able to use to put your patterns onto your square. We would like you to create a square that represents something important to your family and the communities that you belong to. It might be a hobby like baking or cycling or rugby or cricket. It might be subjects or topics you enjoy as a family and something that represents you belonging to our Blackwell community. We can't wait to see what you create. Here's Mrs Moran.
Hello everyone. I'm going to attempt to give you some tips to help you with your community quilt at home. It's for the children and also for their parents, just in case you're a bit rusty on your sewing skills. Okay? First one, we're going to do running stitch. So we must put an anchor knot in the end of your thread. Thread your needle. Okay? Keep it single thread. And then up through your material, down through your material, back up through your material, and down. It's just up and down, either in a straight line, or if you're attaching something to your patch, you could sew through the material and then through your patch. You'll end up, it looks like a series of dashes in a line. To finish off, always put the knots and the finishing off on the back of your work so all the mess is hidden and you just see the beautiful tidiness on the front. Okay, just through a couple of times, through one of the stitches on the back and then snip. Lovely. Next stitch, and the children from year 2 upwards will know these, parents, is back stitch. And back stitch is called back stitch because you go back. Thread your needle, single length, keep all the knots on the same side of your material, and you go in and then come back towards yourself. You come up a little way in front and again back towards yourself. Up in front and back. It gives the effect of a continuous line of sewing, and this stitch will be particularly useful if you want to draw something on your material. So if you wanted to write a name, if you wanted to do an outline of an animal or the outline of a house, it would be particularly helpful for that. Again, once you're done, turn over, keep all the finishing off and all the mess on the back of your sewing. And snip. Okay, next stitch is more of a decorative stitch. It's called the cross stitch and it's very, very pretty. Again, I can see some of my children or our children nodding at us. They can do this. And it's called cross stitch, and you can probably guess because it's in a cross. So, in and across diagonally and make a cross and go across diagonally the other way. You can have them joined to each other if you like. I'll show you that. So they form a row, or if you prefer you can have them slightly separated as single crosses. You could turn them into stars if you wanted. So here's a single one. Sorry. So you've got a couple in a line and a single. Again, onto the back, finish off through a couple of times. And snip. Now the stitches start to get a bit trickier. The next one is called the feather stitch, and it's called the feather stitch because it looks a bit like a feather. Just find the end. Okay, so keeping the knots all on the back, in, one stitch forward, one stitch to the side diagonally, another stitch to the side diagonally. Looks a bit like a bird's print in the snow. Up to the front, one forward, one diagonally, another diagonally, and repeat. So up to the front, straight, diagonal, diagonal, it's like a feather. Finish off on the back, trying not to get in a tangle. And snip. Now, the last stitch of all is the trickiest of all. We haven't got anyone in our current Year 2 class who's done this stitch yet. We do have children who are in yellow and blue who have done this stitch. It is tricky. Ask them about chain stitch if they've done chain stitch. It takes a bit of practice. You go in. You hold the thread with your thumb, go back in the same hole, and your needle comes up a little way in front. Loop your thread behind your needle and pull the needle through. Not too tight so it makes a loop. Hold your thread. If you let go, it can unravel. Inside the loop, in the same hole, forward a little bit, loop, behind, pull through, not too tight, hold. In the same hole, in the loop, forward a little way, behind the back, and pull. Okay, it looks a bit like a chain. To secure it, your final stitch goes outside of the thread but down the same hole. Pull. There we go. Again, finish off on the back. So through it a few times, 2 or 3. Snip. Okay. And there are 5 different stitches that you can use. I have started my square, I've started my edge, and I've used cross stitch and chain stitch. I'm trying to think about things that really matter to me, and so far I've got rabbits, cats, and of course chess. Okay.